Hello, and welcome back to Daily English Whisper. I'm Max. I'm very happy you're here with me today. Find a comfortable position, take a slow breath in, and slowly breathe out. Good. Now let your mind become a little quieter. This is your English time, your listening time, your speaking time, your moment to slow down and learn naturally. Today we are going to enjoy a story, a simple story, a human story, a story called The Lost Umbrella. And at first, that may not sound very exciting. After all, it's only an umbrella. People lose umbrellas every day. On buses, in cafes, at work, at train stations. Sometimes people forget them. Sometimes people leave them behind. Sometimes they simply disappear. But today's story is not really about an umbrella. It is about chance, memory, small decisions, and how ordinary moments can unexpectedly change a day, maybe even a life. And while we enjoy this story together, you will also improve your listening. You will practice shadowing, and you will hear natural English used in context, not isolated vocabulary, not random grammar exercises, real language inside a real story. Maybe you sometimes feel frustrated when listening to English. Maybe people speak too quickly. Maybe you understand some words, but not everything. Maybe your confidence disappears when you hear unfamiliar sentences. If that happens, please remember something important. You do not need to understand every word to understand a story. Let me say that again. You do not need to understand every word to understand a story. Stories work differently. You follow ideas, feelings, events, connections. Your brain naturally builds meaning. And that is why stories are such powerful learning tools. Some learners think they should stop whenever they hear an unfamiliar word. But imagine watching a movie. You do not stop every 30 seconds. You continue. You trust the story. And slowly, understanding grows. That is our big idea today. Keep moving forward, even when you do not understand everything. Again, keep moving forward, even when you do not understand everything. Today, we will do exactly that. We will listen, repeat, imagine, and enjoy the journey. Now, let's prepare for our story together. Before we begin, let's warm up with a little shadowing practice. As always, I will say a sentence. Then you repeat. Listen carefully. Copy the rhythm. Copy the sound. Do not worry about being perfect. Just keep moving. Ready? Listen. It started as a completely normal day. Repeat. It started as a completely normal day. Excellent. Next. I almost didn't notice it. Repeat. I almost didn't notice it. Very good. Next. Sometimes small things become important. Repeat. Sometimes small things become important. Excellent. Now another one. I wasn't expecting that. Repeat. I wasn't expecting that. Very nice. One more. That changed everything. Repeat. That changed everything. Again. That changed everything. Excellent. Now, think about those sentences. They all feel simple, but they also feel like the beginning of a story. Something normal happens. Then something unexpected appears. That is often how stories begin, and that is often how life works too. Sometimes nothing interesting happens. Then, suddenly, something small changes the direction of your day. Maybe you miss a bus. Maybe you meet someone unexpectedly. Maybe you find something you thought was gone forever. Maybe you lose an umbrella. And maybe that umbrella leads somewhere you never imagined. As you listen today, remember, you do not need perfect understanding. You do not need perfect pronunciation. You only need curiosity. Curiosity is powerful. Curiosity keeps us listening. Curiosity keeps us learning. Now let's begin our story. The rain started just before lunchtime. Not heavy rain, not a storm, just steady rain, the kind that quietly covers streets, windows, and rooftops. The kind that seems like it might continue all day. Emma noticed it while she was working. She sat near the front window of a small bookstore, a bookstore she had worked in for almost 4 years. Most days were peaceful. Customers came and went. Books arrived in boxes. Pages turned. Coffee cooled. Hours passed quietly. Emma liked that. She liked predictable days. She liked routines. She liked knowing what would happen next, at least most of the time. Around 1 o'clock, she looked outside and saw people opening umbrellas as they hurried down the street. Some umbrellas were black, some were blue. One was bright yellow. That one made her smile. A bright yellow umbrella seemed unusually cheerful for a gray, rainy day. A few minutes later, the bookstore door opened. A man stepped inside. He looked about 35 years old, maybe a little older. His dark coat was covered with tiny drops of rain. He carried several books under one arm, and in his other hand, he held a dark green umbrella. The man walked slowly through the store. He spent almost 20 minutes looking at travel books, then history books, then photography books. Finally, he chose 2 books and walked to the counter. Emma smiled. Did you find everything you were looking for? Repeat. Did you find everything you were looking for? Good. The man smiled back. Actually, I found more than I was looking for. Repeat. I found more than I was looking for. Again, I found more than I was looking for. Excellent. Emma laughed. That happened often in bookstores. People came for 1 book. They left with 3. After paying, the man thanked her, picked up his books, and left. The bell above the door rang softly. And just like that, he was gone. The afternoon continued. More customers arrived. More customers left. Rain continued falling. Nothing unusual happened until nearly closing time. Emma began organizing a display near the entrance. As she moved a stack of books, she noticed something leaning against a shelf. A dark green umbrella. She stared at it for a moment, then immediately remembered the man. The travel books, the photography book, the rain-covered coat, the friendly smile, the forgotten umbrella. Emma picked it up. It must be his, she said quietly. Repeat. It must be his. Again. It must be his. Very good. She expected someone to return for it quickly. Maybe in 10 minutes? Maybe in 20. But nobody came. The rain continued. The bookstore became quieter, and the umbrella remained exactly where she placed it behind the counter, waiting, just like the story that was about to begin. Emma looked at the umbrella again as she prepared to close the bookstore. Outside, the rain still fell steadily. Streetlights reflected in puddles. Cars moved slowly through the wet streets. The city felt quieter than usual. Most people had already gone home, but the umbrella remained. Alone, forgotten, waiting. Emma picked it up. It felt heavier than she expected. Not because it was large, because it seemed unusually solid, well made. The handle was made of smooth, dark wood, not plastic, not cheap, the kind of umbrella someone probably liked very much. She opened it carefully. Everything looked normal. No damage. No broken parts. Then she noticed something. A small metal plate near the handle. Tiny letters. Almost impossible to see. Emma leaned closer. There was a name. Oliver Grant. Repeat. Oliver Grant. Good. At least now she knew who owned it. The problem was simple. She had no way to contact him. Bookstores did not ask customers for phone numbers, or addresses, or email accounts, and she had never met him before. At least she thought she hadn't. Something about that smile felt familiar, not clearly familiar, just enough to make her wonder. Emma placed the umbrella behind the counter and finished cleaning. When she finally locked the door, the rain was still falling. She opened her own umbrella and started walking home. But all the way home, she kept thinking about the lost umbrella. Strange. It was only an umbrella. Why was she still thinking about it? Sometimes curiosity arrives without permission, and once it arrives, it refuses to leave. The next morning, the rain had stopped. Sunlight filled the bookstore windows. Customers arrived. Children visited the picture book section. An older man spent nearly an hour reading travel guides. Everything felt normal until lunchtime. The bookstore door opened. Emma looked up immediately. For a second, she thought it was him, but it wasn't. Just another customer. She felt unexpectedly disappointed. Then she laughed at herself. Why did she care? She barely knew the man existed. Still, every time the bell above the door rang, she looked up, just in case. By late afternoon, the umbrella was still waiting behind the counter, and now Emma found herself wondering something. Was the owner looking for it? Did he miss it? Or had he already forgotten? 3 days passed. The umbrella remained in the bookstore. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No Oliver Grant. No phone call. No message. Nothing. The strange thing was that Emma continued thinking about him. Not constantly, just occasionally. A thought would appear, then disappear, then return later. While organizing books, while making coffee, while waiting at a traffic light. The forgotten umbrella had become a small mystery. And humans love mysteries, especially incomplete ones. On Thursday afternoon, something happened. Emma was helping a customer find a book about old train stations. After several minutes of searching, she finally found it. The customer smiled. Exactly what I wanted. Repeat. Exactly what I wanted. Again. Exactly what I wanted. Excellent. As the customer walked away, Emma glanced toward the front window and froze. Across the street stood a man, dark coat, dark hair, looking toward the bookstore. It was him, Oliver. Emma immediately recognized him. But something was strange. He wasn't crossing the street. He wasn't coming inside. He was simply standing there, looking, thinking. Then a bus passed between them for only a few seconds. When the bus moved away, he was gone. Emma walked closer to the window, looked left, looked right. Nothing. He had disappeared. That's odd, she whispered. Repeat. That's odd. Again. That's odd. Very good. The rest of the day felt different. Now she knew he was still in the city. He had not moved away. He had not forgotten the bookstore. And somehow, he still had not returned for the umbrella. That evening, after closing, Emma did something unusual. She opened the bookstore's social media page. Then, she posted a simple message. Lost umbrella. Found in bookstore last Sunday. Dark green with wooden handle. Please contact us if it belongs to you. Simple. Nothing dramatic. Just information. She expected nothing. Then she went home. The next morning, she checked her phone. One new message. Her heart unexpectedly sped up. The message was short. Very short. It said, I think the umbrella might be mine. Repeat. I think the umbrella might be mine. Excellent. The message was signed. Oliver. Emma smiled, then immediately felt nervous, which made absolutely no sense. She was returning an umbrella, not preparing for a difficult interview, not giving a public speech, just returning an umbrella. Still, she felt nervous. She replied. The conversation remained simple, polite, friendly. Oliver thanked her, explained that he had been traveling for work. He had realized the umbrella was missing only after leaving the city for several days. Then came his final message. Could I stop by tomorrow afternoon? Repeat. Could I stop by tomorrow afternoon? Excellent. Emma typed. Of course. Repeat. Of course. Again. Of course. Very nice. The next day arrived. Slowly. Very slowly. At least it felt slow. Emma spent the morning unpacking new books, then helping customers, then reorganizing shelves. But every time she looked at the clock, less time had passed than she expected. Finally, a little after 3 o'clock, the bookstore door opened. The bell rang. Emma looked up. Oliver stood there, this time carrying no umbrella, only a smile. Hi, he said. Repeat. Hi. Good. Emma smiled back. Hi. For a moment, both seemed unsure what to say next. Then Emma disappeared behind the counter. A few seconds later, she returned with the umbrella. Oliver laughed softly. There it is. Repeat. There it is. Excellent. He took the umbrella carefully, almost like greeting an old friend. You have no idea how happy I am to see this. Emma smiled. It must be a special umbrella. Oliver looked down at it, then nodded. Actually, it is. His expression changed. Softer, more thoughtful. The umbrella belonged to my grandfather. Emma's smile faded slightly, not from sadness, from understanding. Now the umbrella made sense. The wooden handle, the care, the metal nameplate, the importance. Oliver continued. My grandfather carried it almost every day for years. Repeat. My grandfather carried it almost every day. Very good. Emma looked at the umbrella differently now. Not as an object, as a memory, as a connection, as something much more valuable than it first appeared. And that was when Oliver surprised her. Instead of leaving immediately, he asked, Would you like to hear a strange story about this umbrella? Emma smiled. Absolutely. And without realizing it, both of them were about to discover that the umbrella was never the most important thing that had been lost. Oliver held the umbrella gently as if it were something fragile. Not physically fragile, emotionally fragile, the kind of object that carries memories, the kind of object that survives long after moments have disappeared. Emma leaned against the counter. The bookstore was quiet. Only a few customers remained. The perfect moment for a story. Oliver smiled. My grandfather lost this umbrella 3 times. Repeat. My grandfather lost this umbrella 3 times. Excellent. Emma laughed. 3 times? Oliver nodded. At least 3. Then he began. The first time happened when his grandfather was a young man. He accidentally left the umbrella on a train. He thought it was gone forever. 2 weeks later, someone returned it. The second time happened years later. He forgot it in a small restaurant. A waiter chased him down the street and returned it. And the third time. Oliver paused, smiling. The third time was the most interesting. Emma waited. Oliver looked at the umbrella. My grandfather met my grandmother because of this umbrella. Repeat. He met my grandmother because of this umbrella. Very good. Emma blinked. What? Oliver laughed. That's exactly what everyone says. Then he continued. Many years ago, during a rainy afternoon, his grandfather left the umbrella in a library. When he returned to get it, another person was already holding it. That person was a young woman. His future wife, his future grandmother. One conversation led to another, then another, and another. Eventually, they built an entire life together. Emma smiled. That's hard to believe. Repeat. That's hard to believe. Again. That's hard to believe. Excellent. Oliver nodded. I know. Then he looked around the bookstore. My grandfather always said that losing something isn't always bad. Emma thought about that. Interesting idea. Most people see losing things as mistakes, problems, frustrations. But maybe sometimes losing something creates space for something unexpected, like a conversation, like a friendship, like a story. The bookstore suddenly felt warmer, more alive. And Emma realized something. If Oliver had never forgotten the umbrella, they probably would never have spoken. Not really. Just another customer. Just another sale. Just another ordinary day. But now, the day no longer felt ordinary. Over the next hour, the conversation continued. The umbrella sat between them on the counter, almost like a silent guest. Oliver told stories about his grandfather, stories about train journeys, stories about old maps, stories about collecting postcards from places he never visited. Emma shared stories too, stories about the bookstore, stories about unusual customers, stories about books people accidentally donated and later desperately wanted back. At one point, Oliver laughed so hard he nearly dropped the umbrella. That would be embarrassing. Repeat. That would be embarrassing. Very good. The afternoon passed quickly, much faster than either expected. Eventually, Oliver looked at his watch. Oh no. Repeat. Oh no. Excellent. I was supposed to meet someone 20 minutes ago. Emma laughed. That's probably not ideal. Repeat. That's probably not ideal. Very nice. Oliver stood, picked up the umbrella, then hesitated. The hesitation lasted only a second. But Emma noticed. Sometimes important moments begin with hesitation. Oliver smiled. Can I ask you a question? Repeat. Can I ask you a question? Again. Can I ask you a question? Excellent. Emma nodded. Of course. Oliver took a breath. Would you like to get coffee sometime? For a moment, the bookstore seemed unusually quiet. Emma looked at him, then smiled. A real smile, the kind that arrives naturally, the kind you cannot plan. I'd like that. Repeat. I'd like that. Again. I'd like that. Very good. Oliver smiled back. Relieved. Happy. A little surprised. Then he looked down at the umbrella and shook his head. My grandfather would find this very funny. Emma laughed. He probably would. The bell above the door rang as Oliver left. But this time, something felt different. Not because the umbrella was leaving, because a new story was beginning. Several weeks later, rain returned to the city. Soft rain, the kind that turns streets silver, the kind that makes people walk a little faster. Emma stood near the bookstore window, watching people hurry past. Then she noticed something familiar, a dark green umbrella, moving toward the bookstore. She smiled immediately. A few seconds later, the door opened, the bell rang, and Oliver stepped inside, carrying the umbrella and carrying coffee. 1 cup for himself, 1 cup for Emma. Perfect timing, he said. Repeat. Perfect timing. Excellent. Emma accepted the coffee. Thank you. They stood together near the window, watching the rain, talking, laughing. sharing stories. Nothing dramatic, nothing magical, just two people enjoying each other's company. And somehow that felt important, because many meaningful things begin quietly. A conversation, a friendship, a relationship, a new chapter. They rarely announce themselves. They simply arrive, like unexpected visitors or forgotten umbrellas. And maybe that is the real lesson of today's story. Not every lost thing is truly lost. Sometimes what disappears returns. Sometimes mistakes become opportunities. Sometimes ordinary moments become memorable stories. Let's repeat an important sentence together. You never know where a small moment might lead. Repeat. You never know where a small moment might lead. Beautiful. And there is a lesson here for your English too. Every sentence you repeat matters. Every story you listen to matters. Every minute you spend practicing matters. You may not notice huge changes today or tomorrow, but small moments add up, little by little, day by day, story by story. That is how fluency grows. Just as conversations grow, one sentence at a time. At Daily English Whisper, that is exactly what we do together. We build confidence slowly, naturally, comfortably. And if this story helped your listening, your speaking, or simply made your English practice more enjoyable, I would love for you to subscribe and continue learning with us. There are many more stories waiting for you, many more conversations, many more opportunities to grow. I'm Max, and I want you to remember something. You do not need perfect English. You only need consistent practice. Keep listening, keep repeating, keep moving forward. And, who knows, maybe one small moment today will lead somewhere wonderful. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see you very soon here on Daily English Whisper.